With the mist example, with the cloud example. The mist and the cloud, being Allah in this instance, or as an analogy, not in reality, they've actually described some things about themselves to you, about the compartmentalization.
I didn't say the mist has no description.
No. So you said that the mist exists, but it's something a little bit abstract that we can't quite understand. We can look deeply into the mist, maybe know it's like a chemical compound, whatever the case might be, but we've dived so deep in that instance that we've lost the perception of what the actual mist is.
We've lost the essence of what
mist is. So Allah has attributes. If we dive too deep into them, then we'll lose the sense of who Allah is.
This is something that's generally in language. Okay. Many concepts, like in philosophy, the Greek philosophers, for example, want to define justice.
Okay.
Or you want to define happiness, or you want to define law.
Okay.
And you reach a point where definitions aren't satisfying and they actually tend to obscure the reality of that concept because of the analysis that you're engaged in.
Sure thing.
There was a period within the 20th century, there was a philosophical movement of ordinary language philosophers who said that this is a big problem with any kind of speculative analysis or philosophical analysis, the ordinary language philosophers. So this is, I think, a very deep critique of the entire approach of trying to analyze something that is so beyond human reason, or is so complex, or is so abstract or general. We can still have an understanding of those things. We can understand what law is, we can understand what happiness is, we can understand what a game is, we can understand it, even if we cannot give a precise analytic definition that covers all cases of our usage of that term.
Okay, sure. But then now, is there any definition you can give to Allah being merciful at all that actually captures the definition of what it means at all? Can we compare Allah's mercy to anything on earth to understand what it actually means when Allah calls himself either al-Warith or something?
Yeah, Allah's mercy is compared in hadith, for example, that Allah divided His mercy into 100 parts,
and kept 99 for himself,
99 for himself and one for himself, and like the mercy that a mother deer has, for example, not stepping on its child. So those are descriptions that are given by the Prophet ﷺ. That does help us understand what this mercy is. Does that mean that we have a comprehensive, 100% encompassed understanding of Ar-Rahman? We can, because it's something that's infinite. It's something that is really beyond our understanding. But we can still get some understanding of it through the word Ar-Rahman, the name of Allah.
Okay, no, that's fine. I'm glad you admitted that. The last part of this, before we can move on to your Trinity stuff, if you'd like, is then when you have all these 99, potentially more attributes, are they really distinct, or are they just the same thing?
I don't know what that means. I don't know what distinct means.
Are they the same as the other? So is Ar-Rahman the same thing as Ar-Rahim?
It's a different attribute.
Okay, so there's a distinction between them. They are not the same thing. That's all it means.
They're different attributes.
In the same way that my two fingers are distinct. They're not quite the same.
Yeah, they're different attributes.
Awesome.
Just like you can say that Daniel, in some moments he can be merciful, in some moments he can be angry.
And those two are distinct.
They're distinct, but Daniel is still one person. I have one mind, I have one will.
Okay. Now, when it comes to Allah, are these attributes both distinct and eternal?
Yes. They're eternal attributes, yeah.
Okay, so there's eternally distinct attributes. And are they a part of Allah or the whole of Him?
Again, I don't understand this part saying that it's one compartment or another. Just in the same way that Daniel can be described as angry at times or merciful at times, that doesn't mean that anger is a part of my mind.
But it would be. So the emotion of anger would be an emotion that you would feel, but it will be the whole of your emotional spectrum. So it'll be a part of it, as an example.
But that doesn't mean that it's a part in the sense of a part. You're equivocating on the word part.
So
that's the problem.
Part meaning it is not the whole. It is not equivalent to the whole. That's all it means. You have an emotional spectrum, you can be happy,
It's
sad,
an attribute of me without necessarily being a part in that way.
It's a part if it's not equal to the whole.
That's not the way that I use part.
How would you use parts?
As an attribute. As an attribute. I have the attribute of sometimes being merciful, sometimes being angry, without saying that is a part. I have a distinct part of me that is the anger part of me.
Okay, so it's a component
We don't talk like that, right?
We don't, but it's a component of without being the whole of. So it's a part.
It's an aspect of my personality.
Aspects and parts are the same thing.
No, the way that you're using part is that this is a part, like this is a component.
Okay, so are these aspects of Allah really distinct when they are not one another?
You know, they're distinct.
And they're eternal. Because they've always been there along with Allah.
Okay.
So, if that is the case, what you ultimately have is you have 99 plus really distinct eternal things that are next to Allah.
No.
So they share in the attributes of Allah in that they are distinct, they are not one another, and then they are separate from Allah, yet they are still also eternal. So ultimately,
but I denied that entire premise.
Gods.
I denied that entire premise.
But you didn't.
In the same way that I have 99 attributes or 1,000 different attributes that I have. Right? They're not. That doesn't mean there are 1,000 Daniels.
Wait, but your attributes are created.
Yes.
And they're not eternal.
So why is that relevant to the analogy?
Because with Allah, Allah is the only thing that's eternal. Well, it should be.
Yes.
But then if the attributes are distinct from Allah but are also eternal, that would mean that for as many attributes as you have eternal things that are really distinct from Allah.
No, they're not distinct from, just in the same way that anger is not distinct from my mind or from my will. Those attributes are not distinct from Allah.
Is anger...
They're not distinct from... anger is not the whole of me, right?
So it's an aspect or part?
I said it's an aspect,
right?
Yeah.
And then that would then...
going in a circle.
Well, we are going in a circle. You're not quite getting what I'm saying here.
That's true. I don't get what you're saying.
Because ultimately, by the thought process that we've gone through, Allah has His attributes, but they are eternal as He is, but they are also distinct, and they are aspects of Him, and not the whole. So therefore, we have 99 plus eternal attributes that are next to Allah, but they are really distinct from Him because they are not equal to Him.
You're equivocating on the word distinct, have 99 part, all of this. Yeah. This is equivocation. It's still just like if I was, imagine I was eternal in that I'm immortal, I won't die.
Yep.
And I have anger, I have love, I have mercy.
And they're also eternal.
They're distinct aspects of me. Does that mean that there are 1,000 different Daniels? So just because I'm immortal?
I guess this will be the...
Yes or no?
Yes
or no?
So this
yes
will
or
be
no?
the main qualifier.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
The main qualifier
yes or no?
would then be...
Yes or no?
Do you think that these attributes are abstract in the mind?
Is anger an abstract thing?
You could say it is, yes. Because, abstract to mean, it's in the mind, and it has no causal power.
Yeah, anger does have causal power.
No.
I get angry and I swing at someone.
No, but that would be the causal power of the swing, not the anger. The anger can lead
the anger causes me to act.
Right, but anger doesn't actually have any real placement in the real world.
No, why? And this is exactly the kind of speculation that leads us nowhere. It just takes us nowhere.
We can have things that are concrete, just in reality, like you and me and these cameras, and things that are abstract.
Is anger real?
I would say it's abstract. It's in the mind, it has no causal power.
Does anything in the mind have causal power?
Arguably not.
Then how are we able to live? How can we walk? How are you talking to me right now?
I would say that all comes from something called secondary causality that God has given to us. But as a Muslim, you can't hold to that.
So it's really God. I don't know what that means. Explain.
Before we go there, I think this can actually...
No. Let's stay right here. Let's stay right here. It's very important for us to understand what you mean by nothing in the mind can cause anything in the world.
It can tie into a tricky conversation, actually.
Like, do you have a will, for example?
Before we venture too far away...
Is will abstract?
1 second, Daniel.
No.
Before you go too far away, because you asked me a question before and I didn't answer, because I gave you 2 qualifiers. You asked me before that is the attributes different from Allah, yes or no? In the same way that your anger is different from your will, yes or no? And to answer you, I was just telling you that there are 2 kinds of ways that we can qualify things, either by being abstract, in the mind, has no causal power, or by being concrete, exists in reality and has causal powers.
No, but we don't agree on the mental attributes not having causal powers. We don't agree on that.
If you are angry or you think of a jellyfish or a flying dragon, it doesn't actually cause anything to occur in reality.
It does. If I think about a cup of coffee and I desire a cup of coffee, those are all in the mind. It causes me to reach for a cup of coffee and to drink it.
Okay, but you can desire a cup of coffee and get water instead. right? Like the causal power, so there's a chain of causation that's happening within you when you think of a thing and perform an action. Distinctly, when we're talking about Allah and comparing Him to the mind, when you have these eternal attributes, are they distinctive, as in, sorry, are they abstract, as in they have no causal power, and they only
They do have causal power.
Awesome, so they're concrete, because they exist in reality.
No, something can have causal power without being concrete.
Okay, so in your mind, they are abstract and have causal power. Is that what you're saying about the attributes of Allah?
You can have mental attributes
okay,
that have causal power, yes.
So the attributes
like
are
my thoughts,
yep,
my will, my desire, that has impact on my body and how I behave and the choices that I make in a concrete way.
Okay, so you are...
Yeah.
A moment, please, if you don't mind, please. So, just to sum it up, in your understanding, Allah has these eternal number of attributes that are eternal like Him. They are distinct because they are not each other, and they are not Him, but then they are abstract, but have causal power. Is that correct?
Let's say yes.
Okay.
What are you getting from this?
Ultimately, that's the problem with the Sunni understanding.
Why? Because I said, imagine that I have these different attributes that are distinct from me, and imagine that I'm immortal. Does that mean that there's 1,000 or 1,000,000 different Daniels? No.
Not 1,000 different Daniels, but 1,000 different things that are like Daniel in that they are also eternal and immortal, and they're distinctive because they're not each other and they're not
So
Daniel.
there's not one Daniel, there's 1,000 things like Daniel.
There's one Daniel and 1,000 things like Daniel, exactly.
That makes no sense. It's just me who, in this scenario, is immortal. So it's just me. One mind.
So
one mind, one will.
It's not just you. It's you and the things, and that is the logical problem.
No,
sorry.
So this is you're begging the question because you're saying that they're things.
Yes, because
that's begging the question.
You admitted that they are abstract but have causal power and are not each other. So they
I didn't say that that's a thing like a concrete thing. I said that you can be an abstract and still have causal power.
Okay, well, you can't, because in order for you to be concrete...
That's your claim.
If you're only abstract, you can't have any causal power. But just to say whatever you're surmising is the case, you now have one Daniel who has these attributes of eternality and immortality, and then you have 1,000 other things that are just like Daniel, in that they also share these attributes that only Daniel should have. So therefore...
we'll say there's one Daniel.
There's one Daniel, and also 1,000 other things that are like Daniel.
No, so there's 1,000 attributes of Daniel. That's all I mean.
They are distinct and eternal.
Yeah, they're distinct. Yeah, but it's still Daniel.
And in your mind,
it's still Daniel.
Oh wait. Sorry, it's still Daniel. So the attributes are still Allah.
No, the attributes of Daniel, these characteristics of Daniel, are Daniel. They're a part of me.
So in Allah's case,
it's still one Daniel.
You know how you used the word part just now?
It's still one Daniel. That's the point.
Well,
you're not going to get 1,000 Daniels just because I have 1,000 different characteristics that are immortal.
It's one Daniel made up of 1,000 things.
No, I have 1,000 different attributes, 1,000 different aspects, 1,000 different whatever. Oh, sorry.
No,
if you want to say parts, you're using part in this equivocal way. That's the thing.
But aspects insinuates parts. An aspect of me is a part of me that is not equal to the whole.
In the same way that me having the attribute of mercy or love doesn't mean that there's a part of me, like a part of my mind, that is the anger part or the mercy part or the love part.
Well, I'm not saying...
That's what we started with, remember?
I'm not trying to tell you to segment your mind, because don't forget, your mind is potentially infinite. It doesn't have any kind of concrete box around it, correct? So I'm not saying segment your mind into quadrants. I'm simply saying
then what does it mean to be distinct?
Not the other. So in the same way that like I am not you and you're not me.
Yes, because we have two separate minds.
We have two separate minds, but also a number
just
of
like the
things.
Father, Son, and Spirit have separate minds according to Christian theology. That's why they're three distinct gods.
We can go into that
That's
now.
why it's polytheism.
We can go into that now, but just understand that by what you just said here, unfortunately, you are admitting that Allah is compartmentalized.
I don't think so.
And He has other things with Him that are also eternal.
In the same way that if I was immortal, I didn't die, imagine, and I have different characteristics, personality traits, that wouldn't mean that there are multiple Daniels. You haven't proven anything.
Personality traits.
Yeah, like anger, like mercy, like being loving, like being charitable, like being insightful, or whatever
And-
aspects of my personality that there are.
Right.
They're attributes of me.
Okay. But
One Daniel.
One
if I was
Daniel-
immortal, it doesn't change that there being one Daniel.
as long as the attributes themselves are also immortal, or eternal in this case,
Yeah, there would be.
then they are the same as you because they're not distinct from you.
No, that's a jump. That's a leap.
Okay, so
Why would they be the same as me?
so they're the same as you in that they are also eternal and immortal.
If I'm not immortal, they're
So,
distinct from me, right?
Think about it like yes, they are because they're
Then
not
how
you.
does being immortal make them? So if I'm
if
not
you're
immortal,
yep.
I'm not immortal.
Yep.
My anger is distinct from me.
Yep.
We agree.
Yep.
Okay. But it's still one Daniel. Do we agree on that?
Absolutely. But you
But how
are,
does making me immortal suddenly make it multiple Daniels?
because Allah in the last case, He is necessary, correct? That He can't be any other way. He has to be Allah. Because without Him, there's no creation or existence.
You're arguing for divine simplicity. Divine simplicity is a position that some Muslims have, not all Muslims.
Yes.
You started by asking if I'm Salafi.
Yep.
Salafis do not hold the position
I'm
of
aware,
divine simplicity.
and that's why you have this problem.
No, there was no problem.
There is a problem.
There was no problem.
The problem still being, again, that your understanding of Allah causes necessary parts of Allah to exist. Meaning that either Allah is made up of things, meaning He's contingent.
He has different
or
aspects, different attributes.
The aspects and the attributes have the qualities of Allah. So therefore you have Allah, who is the God of the universe, but also you have another God of the universe, Ar-Rahman, another God of the universe, Ar-Rahim.
Ar-Rahman, or the attributes of Allah, do not have they don't encompass
Every attribute of Allah?
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, so then that means that your position then is that Allah is Allah because He is one, but then He has these attributes that when you add them all up, then you get Allah.
Why can't you address the example of me as a finite being having different attributes,
Okay.
but it not being a multiplicity
Because
of
Allah
Daniel?
is very simple. Allah is infinite, He's infinite, and you as a creation of His can be comfortably composites. It's okay to say that you're made up of
No,
parts,
but my mind is not composite in the way that you're describing.
but it's created, so it's not eternal.
How is that relevant? How's that relevant? Yeah, we should move on. This is a circle.
Well, again, I made my position very, very clear. Unfortunately, because of your thinking, that is the case. However, you said you wanted to ask me a question about Trinity.
Well, I already explained that you have the Father.
minds and
The
three
Father. Can the Father think that I am the Son?
So there's a couple of problems with that.
Answer.
No.
Can the Father think I am the Son?
What
It should be a
makes you-
simple no.
Well, again, it depends. What makes you think that the Father has thoughts?
Oh, so God, according to you, doesn't have thoughts.
What makes you think He does? I don't think He does.
The Bible. The Bible is the expression God is speaking, right?
Right, but it is also.
So when God speaks,
Okay.
are those thoughts? Are they the
Okay,
expression of God's
right.
thoughts or not?
So we're having a bunch of problems here. The first one
yeah,
is.
because you don't think that God thinks.
Do Christians. No,
Or has
God
thoughts.
does not think.
God does not think.
God is eternally in the presence.
Does God have a will?
God has a will.
Does God have knowledge?
God has knowledge, yes.
Okay, so
But
God has.
I would
does the
assume-
Father have the knowledge that I am the Son?
Okay, so again,
Does God have the knowledge that I am the Son?
you're conflating a few things.
Why can't you say
Right.
yes or no?
Because what is your definition of knowledge? We're using key terms here. See, again, right? So,
Proposition like
Okay.
the sky is blue.
right?
That's knowledge.
Okay.
Water is wet. That is knowledge.
Okay.
I am Daniel. That is
That's
knowledge.
Okay.
I am the Son. That is a point of knowledge.
Okay.
Does God the Father have the point of knowledge that I am the Son?
I don't agree with your definition of knowledge because it creates issues, but even for God. With your definition, if at some stage the sky is blue, but then we go somewhere sandy and it's orange, what would Allah say the color of the sky is?
Yes, the sky can have multiple colors. I concede that.
But if we ask Allah right now,
That doesn't
what is
doesn't
the color?
contradict my definition of knowledge.
It does, because yours is dependent upon things occurring before they can be true. So
No,
if-
things can occur and there's still a point of knowledge. Things can change and there's still a part
so
of knowledge.
If we asked Allah right now, what is the color of the sky? What would He say?
It depends on what the color is.
Right here is blue, but
Right here, yeah. So right
but
here,
in the desert, it'll be
God
red.
has the knowledge that the sky here is blue. Yes.
Okay, but if we asked Him what is the color of the sky on Earth, what would He say?
There's multiple different colors. If it's
Okay.
a nighttime, it's going to be black.
And-
if it's if there's a sandstorm, it's going to be orange. What's your
Okay.
point?
That's the problem with
This is
your
silly.
definition of knowledge. I would say
How's that problem? What's the problem?
the problem being that nothing is true. Well, if God knows all true things only in a propositional manner, then there are certain things that will be added to his knowledge later.